Hey there, future scientists. Welcome. Today, we're stepping into what is probably one of the most exciting places in your entire chemistry journey, the lab. This is where all the theories and formulas from your textbook, well, they actually come to life. But before we can make any big discoveries, we have to master the #1 skill of any great scientist, and that is safety. So, let's dive right in.
You know, it's so true what this slide says. The lab really is a place of adventure and discovery. I mean, just think about it for a second. Everything from the discovery of oxygen to the creation of medicines that save lives. So much of that happened in a room that looks a lot like the one you'll be in. It's a space with just enormous potential.
Of course, with all that potential comes a pretty big responsibility. You've got chemicals, you've got heat, glassware all around you. So how do you make sure that this whole adventure is a safe one? Well, it all boils down to a clear set of rules. So before you even think about picking up a beaker or a test tube, that safety mindset has to click on. The rules for just getting into the lab, they're not suggestions, okay? They are the absolute foundation for a safe and successful experiment.
Think of this list as your pre-flight check. First off, and this is a big one, never just walk into the lab without your teacher's permission. They gotta know who's in there. Second, stick to the script. Only do the experiment you've been assigned. No going off on some unauthorized side quest. Third, get to know your surroundings. Before you start anything, you need to know exactly where that fire extinguisher and first aid kit are. And last but not least, hands off the equipment until you're told how to use it. Simple as that. All right, you're in the lab, you've got your instructions, now what? Now it's all about how you act, how you carry yourself. This is kind of like your personal code of conduct for working like a real pro.
You know, all of these golden rules really come down to one single thing: respect. Respect for the space, for the other people in the room, and for the experiment itself. So move calmly, no running around. The lab is and always will be a strict no-snack zone. And this should really go without saying, but please, never, ever taste chemicals or just take a big direct sniff of gases. And finally, a clean space is a safe space. Keep that workstation tidy.
Precision is absolutely everything in chemistry. Always, always, always read the label on a reagent bottle before you use it. You really don't want to mix up, say, hydrochloric acid with plain water. And when you're done, put that cap back on right away. That stops spills and keeps things from getting contaminated. And of course, always use clean glassware and just give it a quick look for any cracks or chips. A little bit of attention to detail goes a long, long way in preventing accidents.
Okay, let's zoom in on one of the most common and, potentially dangerous tools you're going to use, the Bunsen burner. Learning how to handle this thing is basically a rite of passage for every chemistry student. And here it is, the famous Bunsen burner. So you can see you've got the gas inlet down at the bottom, the long tube or barrel where the gas burns, and then there's that little metal ring, the collar, that moves around the bottom. That collar controls the air hole, and trust me, that little air hole is going to be super important in just a minute.
Let's walk through lighting this thing step by step. First, you're going to connect the hose securely to the gas tap. Then twist that collar so the air hole is totally closed. Step 3, turn on the gas. You should hear a little hiss. Step 4, bring your lit match or lighter to the top of the barrel. Poof, you should have a flame. And finally, you'll gently open that air hole to get the right kind of flame for heating.
So depending on how much air you let in, you get two totally different flames. When the air hole is closed, you get what's called a luminous flame. It's bright yellow, easy to see, but it's not very hot and it leaves black soot on your glassware. But when you open that air hole, you get the non-luminous flame. It's a roaring blue cone, it's way hotter, and it burns clean. That's the one you're almost always going to use for heating things up.
Okay, listen up, because this might be one of the most important rules you will ever learn in a lab. When you are heating a test tube, you never, ever point the open end towards yourself or anyone else. I mean it, no exceptions. The reason why is that liquids can boil over and literally shoot out of that test tube with some serious force. So you always want to use a test tube holder and make sure that tube is pointing away towards a safe, empty spot in the lab, like a wall.
I mean, just take a second and actually picture that. What could happen if that superheated liquid sprayed out and hit somebody? See, this rule isn't just some abstract safety thing. It's about protecting yourself and your friends from a really, really bad injury. Look, even when you do everything right, accidents can still happen. So knowing exactly what to do in those first few seconds is absolutely critical.
Okay, something's gone wrong.
Maybe it's a chemical splash, a cut from broken glass, a burn. The first thing to do is don't panic. There are 2 things you have to do immediately.
First, get yourself to a sink and wash whatever part of you is affected with lots and lots of water. Just keep that water running over it. Second, and this is just as important, tell your teacher or the lab tech what happened right away. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be afraid you're going to get in trouble. Your safety is their #1 priority. So remember, water first, then report. You got to memorize that.
So, the experiment is done. The data is collected. But you are not finished yet. A true scientist knows that the job isn't over until the lab is clean and safe for the very next person who walks in.
Your goal here is to leave the lab even safer than you found it. Solid waste, like leftover chemicals or filter paper, never goes down the sink. It goes in the special waste container. Check to make sure every single bottle has its cap on tight and put all your equipment back where it belongs. It's all about being a good lab citizen.
We've gone through a ton of rules today, right? From the moment you walk in to the final cleanup. But I want to leave you with this question to chew on. Of all these rules, which one do you think is the most important? Is it the big one that prevents a huge accident? Or is it one of the small ones you have to practice every single day? Your answer to that is going to shape the kind of scientist you become. Stay safe and stay curious.